Will buffing Flynn's normal attack change anything? That's actually one of the changes I could see happening. I feel like I could see a change to Flynn's normal attacks if they want to push for damage percent buffs being slightly less bad. But I don't think they will, because I'm pretty sure they're gonna make their like generic buffers in Nodcry EM buffers rather than damage percent buffers, right? Natlan was the region of damage percent. Nodcry is gonna be the region of EM. Making his big ult relevant is the only good choice. I mean, I agree. I definitely think they should make the big ult a bit better. Like, if I were given Flins, if I were, let's say Hoyo wakes up tomorrow and they send me an email. Okay, they say, "Hello, Zajef77. We are currently unsure which direction we should take for Flins's gameplay design and balance. Do you have any ideas that we could steal?" Alright. Say they reach out to me like that. What would I ask them to do? I think what I would do... Okay, let's think about the things that describe Flins, right? The things that define Flins, right? So, he's a burst-focused character, right? He's lunar charge focused. He's got some pretty flexible combos, right? Like, you have a 10-second window in which you need to use a skill with a 6-second cooldown twice. So you actually have a lot of flexibility on when exactly to use it. And I think that all of those things should stay there, right? So I wouldn't want to, like... Because I think that's something that some people might think about. Reduce the skill cooldown to, like, 4.5. Reduce the energy cost to 20. Make the damage 2/3 of what it is. To, like, incentivize him to stay on field for the full 10 seconds. And get 3 mini bursts instead of 2. I don't really like that idea. Because I think it kind of restricts his options gameplay-wise, and I think that it's nice that he's not too restricted. I like that he doesn't have strict EO requirements, much like Verissa. I don't like that his big burst is effectively useless. I think I would like to come up with an idea that incentivizes using the big burst sometimes, but that doesn't make the big burst so good that you just want to use them as a quick swap unit that never goes into the field stance to use the mini bursts. So you can't make the burst too good. I also don't at all want to give him teams where, I mean, that's basically what I already said. I don't want him to be... I want his big burst to be viable and usable, but I don't want to create teams for him that are like quick swap where he only uses burst, right? And so I think the best way to go about that is to make the big burst increase the damage of future mini bursts. So, for example, you could make it so that when he uses his big burst, he gets 2 stacks of... I don't know what you want to call it, just give it a fucking name. 2 stacks of... what should we call it? 2 stacks of Nocturne. That's what we should call it, right? There's a musical theme in his naming. And a nocturnal theme. So, let's just call him Nocturne. When he uses the big burst, he gains 2 stacks of Nocturne. If he uses a mini burst, while he has a stack of Nocturne, the mini burst does a second instance of Thunderous Symphony additional damage. And that will create a situation where you could use the big burst, but only in teams that have a very large amount of energy generation. Because the big burst is only worth using if you can follow it up with the energy generation to use a mini burst right after it. It also introduces scenarios where rather than do E, E, and then immediately Q. You do E, E, but in order to get the energy to Q, you have to normal attack. And you want to make sure you get the energy, the 30 energy, to use the mini burst before the 6 seconds are over. What about using his burst as a pseudo stance change? Like using big burst makes his normals good? Nah, I don't think that's really necessary. I don't think he needs to be a character that can have that additional playstyle. I think it's fine for him to be a character that's like heavily restricted to teams that focus on the lunar charge reaction and lunar charge buffs. But I just think that it's kind of boring for him to have a big burst and a mini burst if the big burst is never worth using. But yeah, but also it's kind of hard to design an interesting big burst that would be worth using, but not just better than the mini burst. And so that's why I think that the way to buff the big burst is to make it so that when you use the big burst, it buffs your next mini bursts. That way his playstyle effectively, like his base gameplay loop would stay the same, but his playstyle could end up changing based on his energy generation. And since energy generation is dependent on multiple factors, not just your team building, it would also mean that there are certain enemies that allow him to unlock that additional playstyle, even in teams that have low energy generation. Right, like against the Wayob. You open with a big burst, it one-shots the Wayob shield, you get all your energy back, and you can start... you can use the enhanced mini bursts. Wouldn't the ER requirements be crazy? Yeah, but the thing is, it also means that if you... It creates a scenario where additional ER past your basic ER requirements is still useful, right? Because... I do, okay. There we go. So, baseline, Flins gets, what, 5 particles from himself? Like... What is it? It's 1 every 3 seconds from Inefa, so like 5 from Inefa. Let's say he catches 3, and 2 from Electro Resonance, and there's 2 plus 1. You've got Sucrose particles that are batteried into him. You've got Ino particles. You've got enemy HP drops, 5 proc. Right, baseline energy requirement in this team would be 120. But if you're a bit above that, if you're at 130, 135, it creates a scenario where each rotation, you generate a little bit more than 60 energy, right? If you're at 135 ER, you generate 66 energy. That 6 additional energy is something that you will keep, because your burst container is bigger than your burst cost for the mini burst. And after enough rotations of this, that additional energy that you got ends up bringing you over the edge and allowing the 4th or 5th rotation to be a rotation that uses the big burst, right? I would want for Flynn's base gameplay loop to allow for the use of the big burst as a way to capitalize on extra energy generation rather than the main focus of his gameplay loop. You won't build infinite ER on him so you can big burst every rotation, but you will have something that can make use of that extra particle generation or energy generation that you can get from a bunch of different sources. That's actually one of the things I don't like about Varisa's C2. Varisa's C2 allows you to use mini burst more often, but also completely fixes the energy problems, which means that that additional aspect of needing more energy because you burst more often doesn't lead to interesting interactions with gameplay design. I think this constellation would be much more interesting if, instead of this saying will restore 11.5 energy when her plunge attack ground impact hits an opponent, it said Versa will gain 30% crit damage when her plunging attack ground impact hits an opponent, stacks up to 6, 7 times. Which would create a dimension where you want to go out of your way to build way more energy to capitalize on her ability to use more bursts, right? But as it is, this C2 is a boring one, unfortunately. That would be a bit much for C2? No. No, it would not be. That would actually not even be that good. At 30% crit damage, that would be pretty awful. Keep in mind, Rez's mini burst costs 30. Right? Twice per rotation would be 60 crit damage, but it only happens after your mini burst. The first mini burst doesn't have anything. The second one only has 30. And it's just the plunges after that have 60. But if you start building more ER, you can make that even more than 60. And also, those additional mini bursts also benefit from it. It's just, I think that characters that have more than one options for energy usage should have actual incentives and actual differences for those options. Anyways, but yeah, that's what I would do if I were tasked with deciding on the next version of Flins beta.